So it's a pleasure to welcome you here today for our first CMA Media event.
There are ways that we can communicate what we're doing as well. So, for example, the Trust Project is something that started last year between Toronto Star and CBC. It aims to increase transparency around how we do our jobs. There are a couple of other interesting initiatives out there that are happening in the media that are really new. There's a thing called the Civil Foundation, which is just starting up in the US, and it's a network of newsrooms who can join on. And to join, you have to sign a constitution, the civil constitution, that is basic journalism standards and practices. And then they use blockchain, interestingly enough, to create a community that can vote on whether or not someone has violated the Constitution.
Nearly 60% of Canadians say they fear fake news. Almost 60% really trust news sources.
Being able to put forward being a trustworthy, validated source of news has really become like a true marketable feature for a lot of media organizations to really set them apart.
There is a kind of I think the entire news industry has risen up to redefine its value proposition in the marketplace in contradistinction to slothful reporting or just false reporting.
When journalists were asked in the last 12 months, what was the biggest challenges you faced, fake news was actually fairly low on the totem pole. I think it was about 10%. So that was the biggest challenge. The big challenge with more than a third of responses was staffing and resources.
There are two existential threats that journalism faces right now. One of them is the trust issue, fake news. The other is just sustainability of business model. And those two, not only do we have two very big threats facing us, the solutions for them can work at counter purposes. And one of those examples is sponsored content. Sponsored content helps you pay the bills. It can also undermine trust from your readers or your viewers.
If we look at Facebook in particular, their latest algorithm change, which really favors the content's ability to generate comments more than anything else. So from a journalist standpoint, an objective, well thought out, clear story that answers a lot of questions maybe won't require a lot of comments. Whereas to get organic reach on Facebook now, you have to structure at least the promotion of the story, if not the story itself, in a way that either appeals to passions or to sentiment to get people to respond. I think over the next few years, as we'll see the continued adoption of more sophisticated technology that gives both media as well as brands a lot more information about their audience, I think you might see a little bit more cooperation in terms of mapping an audience.
That it's possible that journalism just disappears for a time, that there is a dark age for journalism. And I don't know where it leaves you guys if that happens, and I hope it's a very short window. I do think it would rise up again, but without the right funding models, without figuring it out, without getting that disruption moment, that transition from one revenue to another, I think there's a significant threat there.